Hello everybody, and welcome to today's video. If you see me sweating, I am sorry, but I'm a very sweaty chess player. And in today's video, I am going to show you a past tournament that I had between the moderators at chess.com. Now, the people who were playing on their mod account, I just have it where it's showing both of us. And for the one person who wasn't playing on their mod account, I have it so it's in an analysis board so that they can keep that private. But anyway, this was the first round, and I was playing one of the highest players in the field, the Magician from Georgia. Now, these are 5-minute games, and I believe there wasn't any increment. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure there wasn't any increment. So I play the classic e4, Bast by test. They play the French defense, and we play this exchange variation. Now, this is called the Monte Carlo variation. This has been tried at some top-level tournaments, and I've been playing it in my games. Now, I'm going to play this without having the lines on, but I will keep on the eval. So we end up trading, knight to c3 is played, and they castle. Now white still has their king in the center, so they have to get out fast. I play this move bishop d3. Now bishop c4 is a little bit more accurate, as it does come on with tempo with the knight, but what I suspect is in the game, I looked at bishop c4, knight b6, and then probably having to go back to d3 anyway, and I wasn't so sure this was an improvement for white. So I end up just playing the immediate bishop d3. They play knight c6, castles, and bishop g4 was played in the game. Now this creates a pin along my knight. And one thing that is a little bit scary long-term for white is this pawn. Now you'll notice that this pawn, there is no c-pawn, there is no e-pawn, so this pawn can never be protected by another pawn unless, let's say, he trades and then he connects my pawns. Now, for this queen's pawn, there is a specific name for this. This is called the IQP, Isolated Queen's Pawn. And in chess, isolated queen's pawns are very common, but it can be a weakness in the endgame, though in the middle game, I can create tactics around my pieces. Now, here I play this move bishop to e3, hoping that he will take, and then my pawns will be connected. He plays bishop to f6, bishop to c2 is played, rook e8, and now I play this move queen d3. Now, I suspect that this is probably bad because of knight to b4. Not this knight b4. Oh, no. You have to deal with this strat, right? But after, let's say, you move the pawn somewhere, this knight will come to b4, and then you'll be in big trouble. Now, I'm suspecting g6 needs to be played, and then we're threatening knight b4. Either knight to b4, picking off the light square bishop. Sorry, I did not look at these games beforehand. Just spoke a little bit too quickly. He played this move g6, I ended up taking the knight, and then I played this move bishop to b3. Now, after queen to e4, white is equal, though it's still difficult, practically speaking. The engine wants him to keep the queen on the board. Now this makes sense as he's offering the queen trade, and he wants to maybe damage my pawn structure. Now I play this move queen to c4. He cannot take and damage my pawn structure without losing the f7 pawn, which would not be so good for him. He plays this excellent move, queen to e7. I move my knight out of the way so he can no longer capture it. And now he forced these two pieces. Now here I play this unfortunate blunder, queen to c5. Now this is a blunder because after takes, this pawn is falling with an attack on my rook. And there might be something else even stronger, but this is just a sample line. Here, let's say a move like rook to b1. We move back, and we're threatening bishop f5, and the position is a little bit awkward. This does not happen in the game. My opponent instead takes here. And now the difference is, if he goes for the same thing, my knight can capture. And I am no longer losing a pawn on b2. So that was a miss by my opponent. Please keep in mind that this is a blitz game. These moves are not so easy to find quickly. And we're both playing on intuition. Now I play this move queen to c6. Maybe targeting this pawn in the future with moves like rook to c1. And it could be a long-term liability. Now I play queen f3 after being kicked out, rook e1, and here he offers a queen trade. Now I should have took the queen trade apparently, but I thought I'd be suffering long-term in this endgame due to this weak pawn. Now he plays this move bishop to c6, which targets this in the future, creating possible checkmate attacks. And here, for some reason, I did not just take the pawn. Now, after takes, I'm not so sure what I was afraid of, because there is no rook to c1. I guess maybe I thought my queen was a little bit offside, and after something like bishop takes, here, even though I can win another pawn, potentially this pawn in the future, with these crippled pawns, it's hard to say if anybody is better. That is what I suspect I was thinking during the game. Now, this game is not from so recent, so I don't remember exactly what I was thinking. But instead, I attack the queen. He trades a pair of rooks. Here I play rook to e2, now attacking the pawn. And here, again, I miss my opportunity to take... actually, no, I can't take here. What's the... No, I play a better move. I don't quite remember why I can't take immediately. Why does taking immediately lose? Oh, because I'm blundering a bishop in this move. We're here, queen takes g5, GG. Okay, yeah, silly me. I can't take yet, so I just move. I could have taken another pawn here. I decide not to. He attacks here. I play bishop f6. We trade. I get this damaged pawn structure. I play queen to e5. King g8 is played. I now take. And here, he has 41 seconds on the clock. I am in a very complicated endgame. We both have two passed pawns. I have a d pawn that's passed. He has a b pawn that's passed. He plays b5, queen g5, b4 is played. And despite him having 37 seconds, considering this is a very drawish game, I am playing the top seed in the tournament. I decide to play rook takes g6 and accept the draw. Now, I could have played this on, but then I risk losing. It's unclear who would be better in the rook game. And drawing a 2300, that's nearly 2400, I thought was not a terrible result for the first round in this casual blitz moderator tournament. So this was a very interesting game. We both missed slight chances, but it's an exchange French, and at the end of the day, a draw against a higher rated player is good. Now, with the white pieces, should I be pressing for more? Probably. And I played this very sloppy queen c5 move, and I could have been punished for it. So, ultimately, I cannot complain. Now, seeing as this was my former moderator account, and not my main account, I did not so much play games on here, so you will notice that my blitz rating on this mod account is only 1700, but on my main account it is 2000. So, but even so, our difference in skill is very evident, and the magician from Georgia is a very strong player. Now, this next game was against Starx. Now, unbeknownst to me, I had played against his civilian account in another tournament before, and I had a plus record here. Now, here I decide to play the ready. I don't often play the ready. He plays e6, c4 is played. I take here, and now we play a Queen's Gambit declined exchange variation. Knight to c3. Often you can get this like Carlsbad structure, queen to c2, bishop d3. He attacks me. I move my bishop here prematurely. Probably I shouldn't move the bishop back. I should wait for a move like g5 to be played before playing this move. But I decided to just do it now because I didn't think he would take. We have a trade here. I play this move bishop to e2. And here he blunders knight takes d5. Queen a5 is played. I play king to f1. Not wanting to block and pin anything. King to f1 is probably a move that's a little bit too dank. He takes here. And after this move, bishop to f5, my opponent simply resigns after knight to e7, because on the next move, I will pick up the light square bishop, and with 4 minutes on the clock, I should be able to convert the position up a piece. Now, if you look through my game history, maybe in some games I would not be up to the task, but I'm pretty sure I would have been able to convert this nonetheless. After king h8, knight takes f5, we had a resignation. Okay, so this mod was playing on their normal account, and I will turn this to my perspective. They played e4. I decided to hit him with the classic Alekine's defense. He played e5, knight d5 was played, knight f3, d6, c4, knight to b6, d4, bishop to g4, and after takes, we get something very reminiscent of a Sicilian with a knight on b6. I fianchet out the bishop, I trade, and he ends up committing a little micro blunder here, allowing this bishop takes f3 move, giving away the c4 pawn is probably not best. He plays a strong move, queen to a4, and I end up taking the bishop. Now, I probably should have just moved my knight back to b6 and kept the tension, but after knight to b6, I was worried, because after bishop takes c3, I think I saw this after the game, you do not have to take, because if you take, that is a little bit bad, because the queen is getting in, but you actually have this nice in-between move, king to f8. King to f8, this is under attack, the queen is under attack, you cannot move both, and after, let's say, a move like queen b5, you draw in another in-betweener, a6, and after, let's say, queen to a5, you finally capture, and you have a better pawn structure. Now, seeing as this was a blitz game, and I was playing based on my intuition, I decided to just take the bishop, so my opponent no longer has the bishop pair. He now takes, and now I play this move, king to f8. He castles, I play this move, queen to b6, as I think I'm slightly better in this endgame, potentially. This move f5 is very important, because if I snag the free pawn, then spaghetti-o, queen to takes f7 is simply checkmate. So after this move, I play f5, he tries to double on the f-file, and I start running with my king. Now my opponent plays some very good moves, he has to trade queens here, and he has equalized despite blundering a pawn earlier, as he has won it back. Now, that being said, black is still slightly better here, but it's very difficult to prove. Bishop takes e3 was played, bishop to c5, and we get into this rooking game, where I think here he was better for a move, but he had to find rook f to a4, which is not an easy move to play, but the threat is simply going here, winning this rook, and after a move like rook to g3, rook takes h7. He is much better because I cannot gobble this pawn. Because I think I'm getting mated after a move like... Actually, maybe I'm not... I was thinking after rook f4 I'm getting mated, but I think I can just... I might be able to retreat. Maybe rook d1 first is better. But I was thinking rook to g8, and it is a very complicated position. I remember thinking I've lost control of the game, but I keep on trying. He decides to go into this rooking game, but he has less than a minute on the clock, and I have 1 minute and 46. So while I am slightly worse in this endgame, I have this passed pawn, and as long as I can keep the game complicated, I have excellent chances to flag my opponent. So we shuffle, he's under 10 seconds. I just have to keep pieces on the board. I start pushing my pawn, and now I simply flag my opponent. I actually might be close to winning here, but after this it simply should be a draw. But I missed my chance to win on the board after rook takes a3, king takes a3. This move, king to d6, wins the game. Importantly, not a5. a5 loses. Now, I could have calculated this having 35 seconds, but how do you sometimes win a pawn race? Well, if you've watched Daniel Naroditsky, you would know the answer. Sometimes the way you win a pawn race is by not participating. After king d6, black is helpless. They can play king b3, but after h5, they are not in the square of the pawn, and I am in the square of the pawn, so I can always catch this pawn if it tries to run. a6 can simply king c6, and this pawn is a goner. You can play this, but I will simply go here, and there is nothing you can do. The best you could hope for is promoting to a rook here, and hoping that your opponent pre-moves this, and then you would win the game. That being said, with 35 seconds on the clock, I would not pre-move, but I do miss this chance to win on the board, and instead I flag. Now, likely, if my opponent had more time, they probably would have gone back and blundered the same thing, and if I had more time on the clock, I probably would have seriously calculated this. But seeing as my opponent had less than a second and there was no increment, I thought just moving the rooks shuffling was more than sufficient to get the win. Okay. I didn't say I won every game, but I'm going to show all the games against my fellow moderators. Now this was against Rufus. E4, C5. I played the Smith-Morra with bishop to c4, and he played the pin variation. And here I think I already mess up a little bit. Probably more accurate would be to be playing bishop f4, trying to aim towards this d6 square. But after a move like knight to g6, black is already doing very well after bishop to g3. I think after probably, yeah, b5 here is probably the correct move. Bishop b3 is probably what I would have played. And bishop is saying bishop to e7, and black has a fine position where they are comfortably up a pawn. Now, I play a little bit too quickly here, and I simply end up blundering that after takes, my bishop loses its guard, and I am down a piece. Now, unlike some of the other mods, I am very stubborn, and I try to prove that I can hold the position down a piece against the 2100. Sadly, 2100s are not so easy. I tried to create some counterplay. Unfortunately, I was just down too much material, and despite my tries, my opponent eventually got the material off the board, and I simply was helpless to stop all the trades, and one helpless rook cannot stop an army of pawns. My opponent checkmated me, and he proved that he was the superior player in this game. Now, the next game I played was a wild one. I got the black pieces against a moderator that is a lover of the Stafford Gambit. Now, the Stafford Gambit has long been a favorite of very popular content creator Eric Rosen. He has a lot of videos showing the Stafford Gambit, and has showed that it can be a very tricky opening, even if it's very dubious. And now, considering that this is a casual tournament and we're just playing as friends, against e4, I decide to play e5, and after knight f3, I play knight to f6. Now, after he takes, this is not yet the Stafford Gambit. The main line is d6, knight takes, knight there, knight takes e4, and then let's say a move like, well, d3 can happen. If d3 happens, then often we'll have knight f6, but more common is this move d4. And after d4, d5, we get this position. That being said, my opponent is a lover of the Stafford Gambit, so I decide to use their own weapon against them. Now, chess.com says this is a miss, but I read my opponent's username. I did not miss the opportunity to play this against them. They play knight takes c6, d takes c6, and they play this move d3, and as every Stafford Gambit fan knows, you play this move bishop to c5 to play along this diagonal. Now, the computer says to play bishop e6 instead. It simply does not know its theory. And the best move here is this move bishop e2, which my opponent plays. Now, there is a very famous trap here with bishop to g5 pinning the knight to the queen, but now there is a spectacular move. Knight takes e4. If you take the queen, there is bishop takes f2, king e2, bishop to g4, met. And you might say, well, what if I don't take the queen? What if I take the knight instead? Well, then you simply take on f2, and if takes, they will lose the queen. This is a major idea of the Stafford. And if king e2, because this knight is not around on f3, there is this move bishop to g4, and you will win the queen anyway. Because after bishop g4, they're forced to take, and we will take here. Don't play a move like c4. Actually, yeah, after, like, let's say they do an empty move, don't play a move like c4 and blunder the queen back. That's the only thing to note, but even if you do, I mean, you still might win. But, okay. This does not happen. They are cultured in the Stafford Gambit. They know to play bishop e2, which is the refutation. I play this move h5. They play c3, getting ready to play d4 and combat this dark square bishop. I play knight to g4. They play d4. I play this move bishop to b6. Queen h5 is played, threatening to take on f2. They play g3. Queen f6. And I don't know if the eval is as drastic as it says here, but yes, so this is a pretty bad position at this point. Bishop to f4, taking the knight was missed. After takes, I take here. They take back. And I get this very bad position. Now, that being said, sometimes because your opponent has a bad opening as their username, maybe we shouldn't play it against them. But I tried to keep pieces on the board. I castle. I'm still worse. Queen to e6. But eventually, my opponent starts giving me some counterplay. I put my rooks here. I stop the pawn from promoting. I give them this discover check, and now they block with the knight, losing a majority of their advantage. Now, after I take their pawn, queen e8, black is almost not worse anymore, and after rook e7, this becomes very practically difficult. We both were getting low on time. This was essentially a bullet game. I checked them. And here I missed taking this pawn with check. Instead, I pinned the rook to the king, taking the extra exchange. We're both low on time. And despite being in a white having a +5 position, I end up promoting to a queen. And despite all odds, I make the Stafford look like a good opening. I sack the queen back for the pawn, and I simply win this pawn in game. Now, this pawn in game is not the simplest to win, but at 2000 level, this is the best technique to quickly finish the game. And after 82 moves, I proved that the Stafford can be played even against the 1900. Okay, moving on to my next game against Vocaloid. I think I end up losing this game too, yes, if I recall right. I play knight to c3, we transpose into a Vienna with f4, f5 is played. This game ended up being the shortest in the tournament, I believe, as I simply missed that I was getting checkmated. Sometimes you win some, sometimes you lose some. Yes, this game was very short. Okay. This next game, I played my famous Scandinavian defense. Knox played e4, I played d5, I took with my queen. But unfortunately here, after this move, bishop to f5, and this move f4, threatening f5, I make a major mistake taking this c2 pawn, which was too greedy. I end up having to give away the bishop. Bishop to g3, knight bd7. I long castle. Knight takes. I have to give up my queen because I don't really have any other move. My queen is basically trapped. So I decide to sack it for some material. But at this point, I simply decide to resign the game because I'm losing everything. And my opponent makes me look silly for playing the Scandinavian. Now, I had played this person before, and we had played some Carol Khan games, but they had a lot of preparation in the Scandinavian, and I slightly misplayed this. I don't usually play bishop to f4, and this h3 line is one that I face, but I have not studied so much, so I will need to look into that a little bit more. Now, the final game, I was playing against a laureate player, Hawk. I once again tried knight c3. Now, after the first game I tried knight c3 in this tournament, you might think that I'm too traumatized to play it again, but we transpose back into a Vienna. I play it the same. This time, bishop takes f4 gets played. h3. Bishop takes f3 could be tried. This is a laureate opponent. I play this move queen to e2, long castles. And after this move, knight to d5. My opponent takes the bishop, forgetting that I'm attacking their queen, and they resigned the game, and that was how the tournament ended. Now, this was a lot of fun. The moderator team, whether they're around 2,000 or, 1,000 to 2,000, are all extremely strong. And I thought, though, this would be a fun event to cover, where we see the mods clash in a bloody battle royale. If you want to see more videos where I cover tournaments over the board or online, please make sure to smash that like button and tell me what your favorite game was and who you think the strongest chess.com mod was. Alright, till next time, I'll see you later. Peace.